Hi there, I'm Tom. Welcome to Tom's Grinder Lab. This is a review of the WPM Konos. It's a very high quality, rock solid, and feature its 71 mil conical grinder. Here is the grinder in question. And for those of you who know WPM's release and entry into the high-end range of the grinder market, you'll recognize the ZP1, slightly camouflaged in black here. But the ZP1 is a 64 mil flat burr. It's the grinder that I say to people, if God cursed me and I was only allowed to have one grinder on my bench and nothing else, then it would be the ZP1. In fact, it's the grinder that rarely leaves my coffee bench as a swirl of other grinders come and go as I'm reviewing and testing. That's the one I've chosen to keep next to the decent DE1 XL as my daily driver. But seriously challenged by the introduction of a 71 mil conical big brother, if you like, or big sister, depending on your preferences. You can see it's same form factor, it's just a bit bigger. As mentioned, it comes with these portafilter forks, which will be a welcome addition for many people who like to grind directly into the basket, or indeed the magic tumbler, which comes with this, and a very high quality magic tumbler it is too. By the way, do please to subscribe if you're getting value from my videos. That's the way I get some reward for all the hard work that goes into these. Now, let's have a look at our agenda today. We're going to start with a summary up front, so you don't have to scroll to the end for the conclusion. Specs and key features next. Then we go to the grinder lab. We'll look at workflow, retention, cleaning, and calibration. What I don't like about the grinder, and there are a few things I don't like, what I like the most about the grinder, and who I think this is best for. So kick off with the summary. We're going to have a look at a range of ratings for this grinder: light espresso, medium milk, filter, workflow, and value. So let's have a kick off with light espresso. It's not really designed for light espresso. For that, you would want the ZP1. So 3 beans out of 5. For medium, pretty darn good, 5 out of 5. I don't think you're going to get better for medium or medium dark or even dark espresso. This grinder is as good as it gets for that roast range. For milk, equally 5 stars out of 5. It doesn't get better than this. Filter, 2 beans. So it's not designed for filter. Just leave it at that. As I always say, anyway, you really want to have a separate grinder for filter versus espresso. Otherwise, you're going to have some degree of compromise with the espresso and the filter in your cup. Workflow, probably a bit miserly here. I should probably give it 5 beans out of 5, except for one thing, which is one of the things I don't like. We'll cover that, and that is the use of the RPM booster. Tune in for that when we get to that part of the agenda. Value for money, I think 4, maybe 4.5 stars out of 5. It's not cheap, but it is an end-game grinder for a mid-tier price. So just bear that in mind. We are not talking about a cheap grinder, but we're also not talking about something that's $5,000 or $6,000. It's fairly priced for the quality of the unit that it is, and in particular the Burr set that's in there. So where does it fit on the spectrum? For those of you who've been looking at my videos lately, you'll know that I introduced a rating of each Burr set that I'm reviewing on a spectrum of subtle to strong. And subtle means that it's going to be picking up flavor notes, and typically this is the lighter end of the roast level, so lighter roast beans here, darker roast beans here, going to give you a strong one mono flavor espresso or filter coffee, whereas at the subtle end you're going to get flavor notes. So as I said, typically light roast burrs that suit a light roast will be up here on the spectrum somewhere. Burrs that suit a darker roast are going to be up here. Burrs that give you clarity and notes are up here on the spectrum body. So where does it sit? Well, if you think of the clarity king of grinders, the ZP6 comes to mind, the Easy Presser ZP6. That's going to be at this end of the spectrum. The niche is going to be up here, ZP1 about here, and this is where the Konos fits. So think about it like this. If you want a medium to light roast espresso, and if you want to break my cardinal rule and have one grinder for both, filter and espresso, then it's going to be the ZP1. If you're closer to the middle or the medium range of roast depth or darker, then you're going to be wanting to look at the Konos as your grinder of choice. It's not quite as traditional Italian as the niche, either the Duo or the Zero with the stock burrs are going to give you a bit more body. So it's going to give you a few more flavor notes, but it's still going to retain the body that you want for a medium or darker espresso, especially if you're adding milk. So now let's dive down into some detail and have a look at specs and key features. This is a precision engineered, very, very high quality component. You're thinking Weber, you're thinking Lagom. This is end game in terms of the precision of the engineering and the quality of the components. One step removal for the top burr carrier like the ZP1. This is extraordinary. I'll show you that when we get to the things that I do like on the agenda. Espresso orientated 71 mil Kerber El Kebba Burrs is the Burr set, the flat Burr set that won the tournament, knocked out 15 other competitors. So this is Italian Burr set. It's very, very, it's built fit for purpose. In this case, the fit for purpose is the medium, darker, and milk espresso. So whilst Kerber may be a brand you've not heard of, it is a premium end Italian Burr manufacturer and maker. Super smooth, large stepless dial, which I absolutely love, and doesn't drift at all, despite the fact that it's so easy to adjust. A brushless DC 400 to 550 watt motor, depending on what hertz you're in, US, Europe, etc. Tons of torque, which you need, by the way, for big conicals, need a lot more torque to drive them. Cold start, low RPM, no problem. And I've even tried this with light roast beans. It's got a ton of torque. If you do stall it, it's no biggie. You just stop it and restart it. Stop it, open the dial up and restart it, clear the beans and have another crack. But I haven't had a stall on it yet, so touch wood. Grind directly into the portafilter All Magic tumbler, which is supplied. Very high quality, as mentioned. Quiet, variable RPM. So if you want a quiet grinder, this is the one to have a look at. You can grind from 150 to 420 RPM. And this is kind of the sweet spot range for these large conicals. If you look at, say, a compact, a Mazza Burr, you're looking at around 300 to 420 RPM, depending on the hertz again. Niche Zero is 330 RPM. Seems to be the sweet spot for these sort of mid to larger size conicals. What else we got? It comes with an ionizer. It's pretty much static free after seasoning. It's really extraordinarily good in terms of not spraying grinds everywhere, but you will need to season a good 2 or 3 kilos through it. 8.7 kg in weight, a 40-gram hopper, which is more than enough for most of our espresso needs. RPM turbo switch to clear the grounds chamber. This is a bit of a double-edged sword, but we'll have a look at that when I go into what I don't like about the grinder. In the Grinder Lab, RPM power and uses. Let's go and have a look. As usual, thanks to our sponsor who sent me a kilo of some of the world's most fabulous beans. This is Monastery.coffee. They are located in South Australia. So let's go into the Grinder Lab and have a look at the Konos in action. You can see that I've got a 58mm basket in there with quite a large dosing funnel on top. 10 seconds to grind the beans at 150 RPM. But don't get too excited just yet, because then I'm going to be using the RPM booster button. You can see me holding it in down there, and that's going to clear the rest of the grounds out. So 10 seconds to grind the beans, and then about another 20 seconds to actually clear them using that RPM booster button. A little bit of a clickety-clack, and you'll see, and this is just after one grind, but virtually nothing retained there in the dosing chute. Now, if you do 4 or 5 back-to-back grinds, you're going to have some retention in that chute because the ionizer won't be able to keep up. But if you're like me and you're just doing one espresso, maybe half an hour later, then you should be able to keep that very, very clear. I want to show you the use of the RPM boost button, which is down here. You see here, I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's 150 RPM. So this is the same deal, grinding 20 grams. And you'll see the grounds coming out here. And that's going to finish actual grinding after 10 seconds. And then I'm going to put my finger down here on the RPM boost button, and you'll see a whole lot of more grounds flying out of the chute. So there's a plus and minus about this. This is not just clearing a little bit of retention. This is something you need to do with this grinder. That's the negative. You've got to hold your finger on that button for 20 seconds or so. Less, of course, if you're using a higher RPM. But the positive with this, and there is a silver lining to this particular slightly small cloud, positive is you've only got 10 seconds of grinding noise. So the other 20 seconds is incredibly quiet. And again, if you want a quiet grinder, you've got kids in the morning asleep while you're making your coffee, this is a pretty good option to look at, because at 150 RPM, only 10 seconds of fairly low grinding noise, very low level grinding volume, and then 20 seconds of clearing, which is almost without any volume. This makes an excellent choice for anyone that wants to keep the grinding quiet in the household. So this little video here is just showing you how you adjust the RPM. You can see the RPM display panel. Oh, by the way, that's something that is an addition over the ZP1. ZP1 does not have an RPM display panel. Maybe in later editions, but the current one doesn't. And this is, so on-off buttons back here, RPM boost button here. You can see when I'm pressing the RPM boost button, then it goes from 150 and goes whoop, up to 420. So let's have a look at retention. So after one grind, 20 gram ghosts, using the knocker only, 0.4 of a gram. So definitely worth using that knocker. By the way, this is without RDT. If you want to use the bellows, then you're going to get, and these are jewelry scales to measure down to 0.00, you're going to get a 0.1 of a gram extra out, which it's kind of optional. I mean, if you're pedantic and you're anally retentive and you want every single last dot, every I and cross every T, then sure, use the bellows. But you're not going to notice any difference in the cup. 0.1 of a gram is an extremely small percentage of the total grounds coming out. So I regard the bellows as optional. Some people complain that WPM sell them as an optional extra, so it's another 50 bucks or whatever it is. But I think they've got it right. I think the fact that there is so little retention after you use the knocker and with the ionizer and everything else, that there really are literally an optional extra. So I think if you want to get the bellows, but otherwise you're not going to need them. And this is what it looks like. This is a 0.18 of a gram. This is another grind I did, then emptied it out using the bellows. And this is pre-using the bellows. This is what happened once it came out of the chute. So either way that we look at it, I mean, it looks like quite a mess in there, doesn't it? But in actual fact, when you empty it all out, it's less than 0.2 of 1 gram, which is a very, very tiny amount. So nothing to get too excited about. But that's what it is. When you look inside, don't be horrified because it looks like it's a lot more than it actually is. So what don't I like? There's a couple of things that bug me. For the first thing is that the RPM display is mostly hidden. You have a look down here. If you're tall like I am, you kind of got to step to the side to have a look at it. But yeah, is it a biggie? First world problem, I suppose. I would have preferred it a little further forward. The other thing I'm not a big fan of is the bellows. Yes, they are incredibly functional. And to be fair, they're actually the most functional bellows that I've ever used. They have this very clever system in it where when you push the air out and then when you let the bellows decompress, it doesn't suck any air back up again. It's quite clever. It's not just a standard bellows. And you'll see on the black model, it does integrate quite well. It's quite well camouflaged. But if I had a silver unit, I really wouldn't want this sitting on top. So if you think you're going to want to get the bellows, I'd recommend that you get the black model. The other thing I'm not a huge fan of is the RPM boost button. It is necessary, as I mentioned before, to clear the grounds from the chamber after it's finished grinding. It does have the benefit, as I mentioned, also of being very, very quiet. So a good portion of that 20 to 30 seconds, depending on RPM, is going to be very, very quiet, if not silent. But you do have to do it. And I would really prefer it was maybe even a button that you clicked and it just stayed on for 20 seconds and then automatically shut off again. That would be nice if they could work that into the smarts of the chip somehow. So what I like most, plenty. There's the dial. It's the same as the ZP1 dial. It's big, it's easy to read, even without my glasses. It's super silky smooth and it does not move. I don't know how they got that combination together. Sometimes when you get these super smooth dials, they will move during the grinding. For the purpose of this grinder, which is to provide you with a larger sweet spot, and for the medium to darker roast beans, the burrs are excellent. I wouldn't say they're unique, but they're a bit close to it because they're a little bit left of the tradition. A few more flavor notes you're going to pick up than the traditional Italian burrs. Another feature that I really like is the fact that you can use this not just with the magic tumbler which is supplied, but if you want to grind directly into the basket and you have a tall dosing funnel like I use, that'll fit in there just fine. In fact, it's really almost made to measure. So really like that because some grinders won't accommodate that dosing funnel on top and you get some spray grounds. I like the knocker. It's very easy to use, very intuitive. I like the fact that it's magnetic release. Mind you, a lot of them do that these days. And I also like the fact that it's super easy to clean behind them. Here are the ionizers, one on each side of the chute. As I said, they do work very well. But like most ionizers, they will get some buildup if you use them 4, 5, 6 times in a row. There is a safety switch, which I always think these little micro safety switches are a great idea. If you are cleaning your grinder one day and your little kitty grabs a stool and turns the thing on and sticks the hand in there to see what's going on, it's not going to be pretty. So big fan of that. The biggest thing I love about the ZP1 and the Konos, let me show you, is this one, I don't know, what do you call it? One's push upper Burr carry removal. It's that simple. There's no butterfly nuts, there's no screws, there's no complicated washers to replace or to fiddle out. It's just one push, and then the dial indicator ring has a little pin on it. I'll show you that in a moment. and then the outer dial ring comes off. It's all magnetic, and it all just fits back into place perfectly and seamlessly and intuitively. The two little bars here, the steel bars that I'm pointing to, that's your zero position. And when you do a deep clean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, what a WMP say, you get these little holes here, and you count 5 of them, and you wind that anti-clockwise, and then you put your calibration ring, I'm going to call it, with the pin goes, as you look at it, on the right hand side of those two steel stoppers there. The calibration ring then goes back in. And how easy is this? You just line up the dot on the upper Burr carrier with the dot on the calibration ring, drops into place. It's incredibly heavy, drops into place, give it a little twist, and you're good to go. And that's deep cleaning with the WPM ZP1 and the Konos. So let's wrap up with who this grinder is best for. I believe it's going to be for you if you are wanting a very quiet grinder. If you've got, as I said, kiddies that are asleep in the morning and need to do 10 seconds of quiet grinding and then have the grounds clear over the next 20 seconds virtually without any sound, this is going to be an absolute winner for you. If you want a thicker, fuller body traditional espresso than, say, the ZP1 or a lot of the other high-end flat Burr grinders are offer, if you like popping some milk with your espresso, it's going to, the flavor from these Burrs, provided you have the right bean, it's going to punch through the milk. So you're going to have a nice coffee flavor coming through the milk. If you're wanting a grinder that's a bit more forgiving of beans and roast defects, all and along the same line, it's a wider sweet spot when dialing in. So maybe if your puck prep isn't perfect, if you have the odd bean that's not perfect, if you don't want to be quite as fussy about exactly where you dial, where you land on the dial of the grinder, but you still want a full-bodied and well-balanced espresso in the cup, then this is going to be a pretty good option for you. And that's basically what it was designed to do. So it's fit for purpose. If you're a beginner and you see idiots like me buying and selling grinders all the time, trying to look for the in-game grinder, and you think, I can't be bothered with all that. You just want to go straight to an in-game grinder. This would be a very good option for a beginner because of the forgiving nature of the Burr set, because it's full featured and because it's such high quality. This is the sort of grinder I would expect to be a family heirloom. It's going to last forever. So if you can stretch it in your budget to go to this grinder, then it would be a pretty good option. It would cut out a lot of the middleman in terms of grinders which weren't going to deliver in the cup quite as well. It's the easiest grinder for cleaning and maintenance that I'm aware of. If that's important to you, then this would be a good one to look at. Bang for bucks, in-game grinder for a mid-tier price. Kind of what I was saying before, but you think of these Lagoms and the Webers of this world and how fabulous they are in terms of their engineering and the design. Well, you're getting that level of quality for a mid-tier price range. So when you look at the price, and I very rarely mention the price because it's different for regional and tariffs and everything else these days. But if you look at the price, it's not cheap, but it's also nothing near the end-game grinders a lot of people talk about, as I said, the Webers and Lagoms of this world, which are exceptionally good grinders, but you're getting something of that quality, of that functionality with those sorts of features for possibly less than half the price. So worth considering, I believe. Hopefully that was a very helpful review for you if you're considering the Konos or another mid to large Burr conical grinder. Be sure and head over to tomsgrinderlab.com and download my troubleshooting guide and optimization guide for espresso. And as always, make sure you subscribe. Cheers.